Imagine retiring in their 20s and living the rest of their life in comfort. Sounds awesome, right? Hey everyone, it's Prashant here. Welcome to my YouTube channel and thank you for joining me in today's video. Today we're going to be talking about my thoughts on the FIRE movement. For those of you who don't know, FIRE stands for Financial Independence, Retire Early. People in this movement believing in retiring early after gaining financial independence, with the goal of retiring at a young age and living out the rest of their life doing whatever it is that they like. They tend to mold their lives around the idea of saving and investing as much of their money as they can at a young age so that they can quit their regular job at an early age and live out the rest of their life off of their earnings from their investments. Guys, before we continue, I want to take a second to ask you to hit those like and subscribe buttons. This helps me a lot with the YouTube algorithm and motivates me to keep making these videos. Now let's go back to today's video. There are many different types of variations within the FIRE movement, with the main four being as follows. 1. Lean FIRE. In my observation, this is the most common type of FIRE movement. This includes extreme saving, cutting down on all of your expenses, and living on the bare minimum throughout your working as well as your retirement years. People who live the lean FIRE method obsessively work to reducing their expenses, often selling most of their possessions, and have a general philosophy of living life on less. They often sell their cars, commuting to work by biking, walking, or using public transit, sometimes even growing their own food and keeping their entertainment expenses to a minimum. In retirement, they often move to parts of the world where the cost of living is less, such as Latin America or Southeast Asia, where their smaller budgets stretch a lot further. Second, Fat FIRE. People who follow this method tend to live a more traditional lifestyle both in their working and in their retirement years. People who follow this method tend to value a higher standard of living and don't work to reduce their expenses to extreme levels. Number 3, Barista FIRE. People who follow this method intend to keep working part-time throughout their retirement. Their thought is that their investments and the earnings from those investments will be able to cover the majority of their life expenses, with their part-time work being able to bridge the gap for any remaining expenses. Number 4, Coast FIRE. People who follow this method also intend to keep working throughout their retirement. However, they believe that their savings are sufficient to support them throughout retirement in case they are unable to or unwilling to keep working throughout their retirement. At this point, you might be thinking, what is the point of FIRE? At what age do people retire? How much money do they retire with? How are they saving all of this money? Well, the thing is, the answers to each of these questions really depends on the individual person. In general, the intent of people who are following the FIRE movement is to gain freedom for their 9-to-5 jobs. They believe they should spend time enjoying things that they like, such as spending time with their family or traveling. The current retirement age in the US to get full benefits from Social Security is 66 years and 2 months. And the reduced retirement age is set at 62 years, which provides reduced Social Security benefits. Technically, if you retire at any age under 66 or even 62 years of age, you're an early retiree. But people who follow the FIRE movement want to retire much earlier in their 50s, 40s, or even 30s. In fact, I've even heard of people who want to retire in their 20s. Imagine retiring in their 20s and living the rest of their life in comfort. Sounds awesome, right? As to how much money these people retire with and how they save this money, well, this is where things get interesting. You see, the FIRE movement is based on a technical paper published by 3 researchers back in 1998 who were working at the Trinity University. This is usually known as the Trinity study. This study used stock market data from 1925 to 1995, a period of 70 years, and calculated that if an investor withdrew 4% of their investments per year, they had a 95% chance of making it 30 years without exhausting all of their money. Followers of the FIRE movement use this study to calculate how much money they would need to save for retirement. If they withdraw 4%, they would need to save 1 divided by 4% or 25 times their average annual expenses before they can retire. For example, if they spend $40,000 a year, they need to save 25 times $40,000, which is $1 million before they can retire. Depending on which type of FIRE movement people are going for, they will start working towards building a nest egg, saving every dollar and investing it into the stock market in order to get to this magical number so they can get freedom from their 9-to-5 jobs and start living life on their own terms. Okay, now that we have a basic understanding of the FIRE movement, let me tell you my thoughts on it. To begin with, I love the goals of the FIRE movement. Being able to do what you enjoy in life and not having to work constantly to make ends meet is a goal that I can really support. Living life on your own terms, being able to spend time doing whatever it is that you like, and not having to work constantly to make ends meet is something that I fully support. I also support saving as much as you can during your working years. In fact, I constantly advocate for living below your means, saving and investing every dollar you can to build up that nest egg for retirement. If done correctly, you should have enough money in your nest egg so that when you retire, you can live out the rest of your life in comfort. Now, here are the parts of the FIRE movement that I personally struggle with. Now, I'm not saying that the FIRE movement is wrong and the people who follow it are doing anything incorrect. These are just my thoughts that I wanted to get out there. Number one, the calculations involved in the FIRE movement, basically needing 25 times your average annual expenses before you can retire, is based on one single study. Now, I know this study has been updated a few times over the years, but in general, because I'm very careful when it comes to personal finance, I like to make my personal decisions based on a lot of data, multiple studies, and a lot of research. Number two, the Trinity study is based on stock market data for just 70 years. Now, I know this sounds like a long time, but if you think about it, this is less than a single lifespan. I would like for this study to be done again using all the data available from the beginning of stock trading till today. Number three, this study is purely theoretical. What this means is that the study took stock market data and used hypothetical portfolios to run their calculations. It did not actually track the portfolios of retired people over the last 70 years. Number four, the Trinity study made an assumption that the average retirement is 30 years long. This means if the average retirement age is 67 years old, you're expected to have a lifespan of about 97 years of age. Now, in general, this seems like a reasonable assumption. However, people in the FIRE movement want to retire much, much earlier in their 50s, 40s, or even 30s. Keeping in mind a similar life expectancy of 97 years, this could mean retirement periods of 40, 50, or even 60 years. This is very different than the baseline assumption of 30 years used in the Trinity study, and it casts some doubt whether the results of the Trinity study can be applied to a much longer time period such as this one. 5. Because the Trinity study was only conducted in 1998 and the FIRE movement is only gaining in popularity now, we don't actually know how people who follow the Trinity study have done in their old age. For example, if someone read the Trinity study and retired in the year 2000 at the age of 50, they're only 70 years old now. And they would have gone through the Great Recession due to the housing crash, not to mention the 2020 stock market drop and other smaller market fluctuations. We don't know how things will go for them over the next 10, 20, 30 years. This is to say that we don't really have any data from a person who followed the FIRE movement and lived comfortably throughout the rest of their life. This does not mean it's impossible. I'm just bringing it up as something to think about when considering the FIRE movement. So now that I've explained the FIRE movement and my thoughts on it, you might have a question, Prashant, would you do it? And my answer, guys, is sort of. Look, as you know, I'm a big proponent of living below your means, reducing spending, and saving and investing wisely for the long term. I would love to be financially independent and be secure in the knowledge that I don't need to constantly work in order to meet all my expenses. In fact, I obsessively track my spending to make sure I'm saving as much money as I can and I'm not wasting money on something. That being said, I don't think I'll ever be able to stop working because I'll be too bored. I love spending time with my family and traveling, but I don't think I can fill up my entire life doing just that. To add to that, I enjoy a certain standard of living and I would like to improve my standard of living as I grow older to a certain point and then maintain it through the rest of my lifetime. I just don't think that the standard of living I want to maintain is sustainable at $40,000 a year or a similar amount, especially while living here in the United States. And I just don't see myself moving to a cheaper part of the world like Latin America or Southeast Asia. You see, guys, I'm an immigrant by choice, and I know firsthand exactly how difficult it is to immigrate and assimilate into a new country with new rules, traditions, and customs. And I enjoy living in America and intend to live here for the rest of my life. Again, I don't think there's anything wrong with living in Latin America or Southeast Asia. In fact, from what I hear from friends and from what I know from my own travels, I know that some parts of the world can be very, very fun to live in while also being very cheap. However, I just don't think it's for me when it comes to living there for the long term. So that's it, you guys. I hope you learned something about the FIRE movement and enjoyed listening to my thoughts about it. Please let me know in the comments section below what you think about the FIRE movement. If you have any questions or comments about the FIRE movement, please go ahead and leave them in the comments section below, and I'll respond to them as soon as I can. Go ahead and hit the like and subscribe buttons. This helps me a lot with the YouTube algorithm and helps my channel reach more people who are interested in the personal finance journey. Also, go ahead and hit the bell icon to be notified instantly when I post a new video. I post a new video once every week with great new financial content, and I hope to see you guys back here. And go ahead and follow me on Instagram. I'll leave my handle in the description below. Thank you so much for watching, and see you next time.